Hello, everyone. I am Marilyn Penalosa, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. This video represents our annual report to town meeting of the status of the Community Preservation Fund and the projects we are recommending to town meeting for approval. Over the next few minutes, I will briefly describe all of the projects. Additional information on specific projects can be found in our annual report online at our website and with the town clerk's town meeting materials. The original project applications are on the CPC website as well. I hope you'll jot down questions as I go through the projects and email them to us at our town address. We will forward your questions to the project sponsors and post their answers on the CPC website for you to review. Both the website and email address are on the last page of this presentation. Many of these projects will be on the consent agenda, meaning that they will be voted on with an up or down vote at town meeting, unless the requisite number of town meeting members request that a project be pulled out for individual consideration. For that reason, I urge you to have your questions answered before we meet. Note that all projects have been reviewed and approved as complying with the Community Preservation Act by our town council. A brief look at what we've done to date. A total of $87.4 million of community housing, historic resource, open space, and recreational resource projects. And here's the project breakdown by area presented graphically. The large historic resources figure is mainly due to our acquisition and renovation of the community center and the restoration of the Carey Memorial Building, as well as the restoration of our 3 historic houses. Projects which provide important services to residents and bring welcome tourist dollars to the town. An important component of our funding for CPA projects is the match provided by the state. Over the years, this share has risen and fallen. Recent changes in deed fees, the principal source of the match, have resulted in consistently higher shares. Our match for fiscal 23, which includes a $500,000 bonus payment from the state budget surplus, was $2.3 million, or almost a 40% match. This slide shows you our financial situation going into town meeting. The beginning balance of our Community Preservation Fund is $8.7 million, the larger than usual balance being the result of 3 years of COVID-related reductions in funding requests. The estimated surcharge is based on residential taxes, which last year averaged approximately $486 per single-family dwelling, and the contributions of our commercial base of $1.2 million, representing approximately 22% of the total. The state match for next year is based on a conservative 30%. If you approve all of our recommended projects for fiscal 24, we will have a balance of $2.8 million to carry over to next year, of which $1.2 million is earmarked for housing, open space, and historic resources, and the remaining $1.6 million is unrestricted. The funds will also be available for funding for extraordinary or time-sensitive projects that we might bring to you in a special town meeting in the fall. Before we look to next year's projects, a few words of thanks to the Capital Expenditures and Appropriation Committees for their always good questions, and to Carolyn Kosnoff, Assistant Town Manager for Finance, for her always good answers. Finally, my personal thanks to each of the members of the CPC for their continued dedication and commitment to finding the very best projects to bring to you. Now, a look at those projects. Article 10A, $400,000 for the development of design and design documentation at the Stone Building on Massachusetts Avenue, is the first phase of a 4-year project to renovate and make accessible the historic 1833 National Register property, readying the building for lease to an appropriate tenant. Vacant since 2007, when a burst pipe caused the building to be closed to the public, the building has suffered significant deterioration over the years. Since then, a number of studies have been requisitioned to determine the building's condition and potential for reuse. In 2020, the Select Board appointed an ad hoc feasibility reuse committee for this purpose. This request stems from the recommendations contained in that committee's report. The total cost of the renovation is estimated to be $10.9 million spread over 4 years. The project amount will also be available to cover unexpected repairs to prevent even more deterioration of this important town-owned building. Article 10B, $6,635,191 for the Monroe Center for the Arts is requested to make the building fully accessible through the addition of ADA-compliant elevators and restrooms, as well as energy efficient through the replacement of the existing fossil fuel boiler system with an all-electric heat pump system. This historic 1904 building, formerly a primary school and junior high, now is under long-term lease to the Monroe Center for the Arts, a private nonprofit organization that serves over 1,400 students of all ages and abilities, providing visual arts education classes, studio rentals to music and dance schools, community arts-related events, art gallery, and studio space offering affordable rents for community artists. Because the building is town-owned, all renovations will be approved and overseen by the Department of Public Facilities. Note that although the project request is for $6.6 million, only $4.6 million will be funded from CPA cash reserves. On advice of the Assistant Town Manager for Finance, the remaining $2 million will be funded with a 5-year bond. Article 10C is for $118,419 for the stabilization and restoration of the circa 1850 barn at the Hancock Clark House. This phase of the project will stabilize the structure and prevent it from collapse, and at the same time bring it up to code in terms of accessibility, lighting, and climate control. Subsequent steps will allow the Lexington Historical Society to turn the barn into a fully accessible space that will be used year-round for education and other public historical society functions. Article 10D, $35,000 for archives and records management, is part of a multi-year program to conserve the town's most important historical records and incidentally digitize them for greater public access. This year, we will be preserving a 3-part set of oversized map books belonging to the engineering department and containing specific drawings, cemetery plot information, and other engineering and urban layout plans spanning from 1856 to 1912. The many fold-out maps and other documents are still in use by the engineering department and must be preserved in order to ensure their continued integrity. The atlases have been determined to be historic resources by the Lexington Historical Commission, eligible for CPA funding. This project, Article 10E, is for the restoration of the first parish church clock for $12,000. The project will completely overhaul the 1868 E. Howard clock, which graces the steeple of the historic church located directly across from Lexington Green. A rare example of a small shop build that predates mass production, the clock is now inoperable due to the failure of its mechanisms. A complete restoration will return the clock to its original working order for the timekeeping needs of residents and visitors to the historic green. Although the clock is an integral part of the church exterior, Town Council has confirmed that this is an acceptable project because CPA funding would not be used for religious purposes. Any aid to the church would be incidental. Coincidentally, 10F is for the restoration of another historic clock, this time the restoration of the East Village clock at Fallen Church for $9,600. Originally owned and maintained by the East Lexington Men's Club for the citizens of the East Village, this 1914 E. Howard clock needs overhauling to ensure its continuing functionality and accuracy. As with the first parish clock, Town Council has assured us that this funding is incidental to the church's religious purposes and is therefore eligible for CPA funding. Article 10G, Willard's Woods site improvements for $1,211,675 is for Phase 2 of the Conservation Department's efforts to achieve universal accessibility under the Americans with Disabilities Act at Willard's Woods. The project includes improvements near the fire pits, parking area, and on the main section of the trails at this well-used and well-treasured conservation area. A new accessible loop trail, observation deck, and interpretive panel at the mill pond, and accessible parking facilities will enable all users to enjoy the meadows, wetlands, and old-growth forests at this popular site. The project will also implement comprehensive meadow preservation at the conservation land by removal of non-native invasive plants and conducting native plant restoration. Article 10H, Whipple Hill Trail Repair and Fire Access, requests $300,000 to upgrade the access and passage at this also important conservation area. Conservation Engineering and the Fire Department have determined that the existing fire access is inadequate for passage by 17,200-pound trucks. Additionally, the wetland crossing has eroded to the extent that it is difficult and possibly dangerous for hikers and bicyclists to pass. Sedimentation from erosion has also negatively impacted the surrounding wetlands. Trail renovation will resolve these issues for this well-used conservation area. Lincoln Field 1 is at the end of its useful life, and Article 10I seeks $2,475,000 to design, engineer, and complete construction and landscaping and site improvements at the field. New walkways, guardrails, and plantings will enhance the site, as will lighting at this field and also at Lincoln Field 3. This project does not include turf replacement, however. The decision has been made to use synthetic turf for the fields, and in accordance with the Community Preservation Act's requirements and recent case law, no CPA funds will be used for the installation of this material or related site preparation. Rather, the $916,000 remaining of the total $3,391,500 project cost, if approved, will be appropriated from the general fund unreserved balance. This project is part of a larger planned rehabilitation at Lincoln Park. Field 2 will be replaced in fiscal 25 and Field 3 during fiscal 26. Article 10J, Park and Playground improvements at the Bridge School playing fields for $285,000 will install new grass and add enhancements to ensure universal accessibility at the Bridge School fields. New paths will be created between the fields, as well as a formalized path from the fields to the entrance of the school. Additionally, drainage and irrigation systems will be upgraded to promote efficiency and availability of the facilities. Improvements of the park and playground facilities at Justin Park off Eldred Street for $155,000. In Article 10K is the next playground to be renovated and rehabilitated under the Recreation Department's long-term program to ensure compliance with national safety and accessibility standards. This project will update and replace existing playground equipment, as well as signage, a bike rack, and fencing. New safety surfacing consisting of poured-in-place and synthetic wood fiber safety surfaces will be installed. The facilities at Justin Park were last replaced in 2003. Article 10L, Public Grounds Irrigation Improvements. Acting on the advice of a consulting firm, the town has been making updates and improvements to the existing irrigation systems on the town's public grounds. New technology allows irrigation to be targeted on turf areas while conserving water, using a system that senses environmental factors such as rain and drought and adjusts the water usage accordingly. The 2017 annual town meeting approved an appropriation for upgrades to the irrigation systems at the town's athletic fields. In 2018, additional funding was provided for grounds surrounding public facilities along Massachusetts Avenue. This fiscal 24 request for $80,000 of CPA funding continues this program, targeting the Battle Green, Visitor Center, and Buckman Tavern lawns. The total project cost is $200,000, of which $120,000 will be funded through the General Reserve unfunded balances for CPA ineligible areas. Article 10M, Transforming Trees into Art, Birds of New England, requests $22,000 in CPA funds to create public art along the pathway between Gallagher Tennis Courts and the various basketball courts and Parker Street. The town had determined that since the white pine trees along the path were failing and presented a danger to the nearby homes, they had to be removed. This project uses 8 of the preserved stumps to create carved representations of local birds. The carvings will be explained through a mobile phone app using a QR code attached to the carving, linked to a website describing the native birds and inhabitants of New England. At Special Town Meeting 2022-3, town meeting members authorized the creation of an affordable housing trust as a means of increasing the affordable housing stock in Lexington. Article 10N provides $1,500,000 funding to facilitate the setup of the housing trust and possibly enable the acquisition of 1 or more new homes. As of 2022, the average sales price for a single-family home in Lexington was over $1.6 million, and the town only has just over 10% of units being designated as affordable. The town continues to face challenges in making competitive offers on properties with the current system of waiting for approval from town meeting for funding. The funding of our Affordable Housing Trust will allow it to become far more flexible in being able to take advantage of the current real estate market and successfully bid on new properties. The Lexington Housing Assistance Board, or LexHab, Lexington's longtime funder of affordable housing, faces similar challenges in making competitive offers for new units. Article 10O is requested to alleviate these challenges by providing $400,000 in pre-funding, which would provide a down payment for an acquisition of a market-rate home to be converted into a unit of affordable housing. Use of these funds would be governed by the terms of a contract with the town, requiring that the funds be used for a specified program to seek houses within a specific time period, subject to monitoring by the town. This article, Article 10P, for $345,125, will provide funding to LexHab for the preservation and rehabilitation of 14 of their affordable housing units. Monthly rents are not sufficient to enable LexHab to make much-needed capital improvements. This project is similar to requests made and approved at 2019 and 2022 annual town meetings. The funding will also cover the installation of solar panels at 2 of LexHab's properties on Lowell Street. On the advice of our town's finance department, several of our larger CPA projects were funded through the issuance of 10-year bonds. Article 10Q, CPA debt service, reflects the payments that will be coming due in fiscal year 2024. All outstanding debt will be fully paid in fiscal 2024, except for the remaining Carey Memorial debt, which will be repaid in 2025. This project, Article 10R, requests our yearly appropriation of $150,000 to meet the administrative expenses of the Community Preservation Committee. Legal fees, appraisals, member dues to the statewide Community Preservation Coalition, and importantly, the salary and benefits of our shared administrative assistant. As always, any funds not actually spent during the fiscal year are returned to the undesignated fund balance of the town's Community Preservation Fund. We hope you will agree that the Community Preservation Act has been and will continue to be an important source of funding for our town, providing welcoming open space, quality affordable housing, enhanced recreation facilities, and preservation of our most important historic resources. We are grateful for your support. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and please do contact us if we can provide additional information and answers to your questions.